So I would just challenge you. Don't open up, be open to other ways of thought. That doesn't mean open yourself up to be less ferocious about what you believe. No, but you know what I
Right.
mean? Like, be
Yep.
open to that. Understand what the other side. By the way, if you've got somebody in your life that like doesn't agree with you, like that thinks the opposite politically, you know what? You can probably land on some sort of trauma or hurt. You can
Mm,
start to develop something at the heart level. And I'm and that is 100% true. We may not agree on politics or spirituality, but we can relate to pain. Pain is like this, like it levels the playing field. Jesus did that. They wanted to pin him to a religious conversation. He always brought it back to this heart level that we can all connect upon. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
the political right is like Jesus. If you're Christian, you vote right. It's and we put and these are boxes, people. You are limiting the divine as soon as you start putting things into a box. I'm not even saying I disagree. I'm just saying be open. And so put people in your life that are maybe a little bit outside of the frame of exactly what you believe. I'm not suggesting you follow them and get soft on your beliefs. No, 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 no. But it will actually open your mind to different ideas. It might actually expand and edify your faith.
Hey guys, this is Micah Kennealy here with the Young Adults Today podcast and YouTube channel. Thank you so much for joining this conversation and this podcast because it is continually growing, and we'd love to have you subscribe and join this community of passionate leaders that all are about reaching the next generation and seeing them come to Christ. So, if you do not know this, we actually have book bundles, and these are designed resources specifically for you and your leadership. So, check out the link to purchase them in the show notes. And check out today's guest. This is an amazing friend of ours, Jerrid Sebesta. He's back on the podcast today talking about turning your disappointment and setbacks into launching pads of all that God has for you. So enjoy this conversation because it starts right here, right now.
your dream life awaits. That's the message that Jerrid Sebesta wrote in his book as his gift to me. The book is Life Undeferred. Longtime friend. Welcome back to the podcast, Jerrid.
I love we've done this probably what 2 or 3 times minimum.
Yeah.
And I love it. Whenever I see this on my schedule, I'm always jacked to have this conversations. Let's go.
Why did you write Your Dream Life Awaits? You signed it, you gave that to me. It spoke to me on a deep level. And it wasn't just words. What did you mean?
A lot of people when they hear that, they say things like, "Well, I'm I am living my dream life. I've got it. I'm living it, right?" And I'm always like, "But there's always more. There's always more. You will never ever reach the point of maximum potential ever." And I think that people we live these kind of like I would say play repeat types of lives where your life just kind of looks the same. And I'm not mad at you if you do that. I used to do that. I'm not suggesting you're not loved or saved, but I think that like the national, if you really get down to looking at who we are at our core, growth, expansion, more is really the essence of our creator. And we're made in his image. And so there's always more. And it does, and people automatically think I'm talking about more money, but I'm not excluding that either. It's all of it. It's all of it. I go back to
Mhm.
John 10:10. I've come to have life and have it to the full, to the maximum. And so I just understood this idea of like God's fullness. And so whether people are living a 1 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10, their dream life is still awaiting. And it's right there for the pickings. You just got to go get it.
I love that because there's always bigger dreams to dream. There's always more from God, and it's whether or not our hands are open or our fists are closed because we think that we're satisfied. And one rule that we literally have in our house is that we are not going to live the same year twice. That's one thing Josiah and I talk about. Like so many people get comfortable cutting and pasting what they did
Oh,
last year because it just worked, whether that's your ministry, whether that's your business, your family plans, like whatever that is. And we like to hold things loosely, but we like to plan things too and have fun. So when it comes to life in your story, Jerrid, like, can you just give us a brief synopsis of maybe what God's been up to, what you've been up to, even in the last 5 to 10 years?
Oh, okay. Well, how much
One
time
to
do we have?
three,
How about the last hour?
6 months.
No, uh, stuff just it moves fast. Like when you really start to open up your mind to this stuff, I think that people talk about these rapid expansions of growth. That's possible. And I'm seeing that now in real time, almost accelerated the more time goes on, if that makes sense. Like I'm
Yeah.
actually seeing the pace accelerate with time. And all of a sudden the growth that isn't this linear curve. It's not linear with God. Like it's just not. Like you could take a look at like non-spiritual things that have happened over the course of human history. And once the idea is implanted in a human being, now all of a sudden it's unlocking. I love the word unlock. It's I use it in the subtitle of my book. Like once that's locked, it's like the cheat code comes out, right? And from stage, I can't tell you how many times on stage in the last 6 months I talked about Romans 12:2. We are to be transformed by the renewing of our mind. And I say this is the ancient cheat code to life.
Mm.
You want more out of life, be transformed by how you think.
That's so
Is
good.
prayer important? Yes. Is creating vision important? Yes. Again, I'm not picking on Christians, but this is a Christian podcast and I'm included. We kind of sit back and we're kind of just waiting on the Lord, and we're just going to wait. And it's like, if you can start to take action, unlock your mind, watch what happens. I mean, an example, this is a secular example. I mean, 70 years ago, we didn't think the human body was actually it was incapable of running a 4-minute mile. It was
Yep.
literally impossible. Then one guy did it like somewhere in Europe, and it was like world news. He broke 4 minutes by like 2/10 of a second. It was thought that only the right conditions, the right atmospheric conditions, the right human being at the right time of the day could do this. He did it. And you know how the story goes. By the end of the year, 3 more people did it. 2 people did it in the same race. Now thousands of people have done it. Is it hard? Yes. Is it unprecedented? No. What happened? A new idea, a renewing of the mind got ejected into the human body, into the human mainframe, and there's explosive growth that happened because of it. You think of longevity, you think of technology. Goodness gracious, guys. Like I grew up in the 80s. I played Pong. Thump, think, thump. That was 40 years ago. Like now, AI, you can't tell if it's real or if it's fake. You can't
Yep.
even tell.
Yep.
Rapid explosion, like leaps. Guys, that's possible for you and I to have those things in our lives. So to kind of recap my life for 43 years because of how I thought, I didn't know it at the time, but because of how I thought, I was capped. I was a Christian, guys. I was a Christian. I could recite scripture, I'm a child of the king. I got the keys to the kingdom. And we say these things, but it's really not infiltrated in our soul. And we haven't allowed it to transform our mind. We're kind of like caught in the patterns of the world, which is the first part of Romans 12:2, by the way. Don't be conformed by the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of our mind.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can be Christian, be saved, and still have these caps. And once I understood that, boom, the caps started coming off. Every year I'm having exponential growth, not in finances. Again, people want to come back to that, but not excluded, but seeing like I don't recognize myself a year ago.
That's
The way that
awesome.
that guy thought, the way that he looked at the world, the way that he interacted with his creator, I don't recognize that guy. Like, and that to your point, I don't want to have a similar year to year. And so I inspire people to have unrecognizable years. And a lot of people don't believe that that's possible. They just think it's because your rational brain takes over. Because your rational brain, albeit is there to protect you, thinks logically, meaning if you've had this much growth in the last 5 years, then your logical brain will say, well, you're only going to have this much growth in the next year. So when we dream these big dreams, they're not that big because your logical brain, which is there for a reason to protect you and keep you alive, is not a great dreamer.
Yeah.
It doesn't bode well in the big dreams, the really expansive dreams that are infinite because you're connected to an infinite creator. So the dichotomy between the first 43 years of my life and the last 3 is understanding that concept.
That's amazing.
It's remarkable. The pioneer missionary Hudson Taylor said, I found there's 3 stages to every work of God. First, it's impossible. Then it's difficult. Then it's done. And whether it's the 4-minute mile, Jerrid, or I'm often inspired by Mount Everest, Sir Edmund Hillary, 1953 summited Mount Everest for the first time, and him and Tenzing Norgay, who saved his life, by the way. But since then, over 6,600 people have summited Mount Everest, and it just reminds me so much on track of what you were talking about with the 4-minute mile. And I think that we do want to raise our faith. We want to get out of especially toxic thinking or,
Small-minded,
yeah,
probably.
oh my
Yeah.
gosh. And I believe that there is breakthrough miracle power. For the listener, we're going to talk more about this. But Jerrid, like, I just think that, aggressive goals, I think in my life, um, one of the missing pieces has been like touch points, evaluating. I'm driven. I'm somebody who loves dreaming.
You're a self-starter.
For sure. Like, I don't need somebody to like tap me and say, giddy up. Like, if anything, hopefully it's like, whoa, whoa, like with the horse. But I just think that a few years back, one of my life coaches, he passed away, went to be with Jesus. We had prayer times together. We'd set goals, but it was those touch points. And I think there's an accountability piece. I think there's a speaking it out piece. Um,
All of it. All of it.
all of it. But thoughts on that about evaluating touch points? How do you set aggressive goals? And then what's your posture or process look like for, not just, oh, I set the goal and then it's written down in some journal somewhere. And then
That's
three
my
years
problem
you dust
sometimes.
it off. Like, how do you keep it kind of in front of you and
Yeah,
maybe others so that it can happen?
sure. Well, you asked a couple of questions. I'll address the last one first. So my roadmap, and it's mentioned in the third part of my book, Life Undeferred, shameless plug there. But like I talk about the roadmap. The roadmap is actually it's 7 steps, but it incorporates 3 signature pieces. And usually people are really good at one of the three, but not all of the three.
Hmm.
So no matter which one you're good at, it bypasses where you fall short. So I'm like you, Josiah. Like I'm a visionary, I'm a dreamer. I can get excited about an idea all day long, but I have no clue what to do today. Like, what do I do today? Let alone like to accomplish this goal that's 2 or 3 years out. So my roadmap takes care of the vision, long term, downstream, right? We're visionaries, that comes easy to us. Some people are great goal setters. They love these like quarterly goals, like the rocks. If you study EOS, they just
Yeah.
love the
Yeah.
rocks, right?
Mhm.
But they don't really see the longer term goal, or may that just may not be their genius. Other people, they're like the daily task,
Hmm.
like they love checklists. Like I could like admin people are typically really good at that. They come into work, they know these are the tasks I got to take off, boom, 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 boom. But they're typically not dreamers. You know what I'm saying? So I always teach people like get out there like a year in advance and set the vision. By the way, where there is no vision, people perish. I
Right.
love Proverbs 16:9. Man casts the vision, God directs his steps. Like
Beautiful.
this is where people like they don't cast the vision because like I'm a Christian, right? So it's like, how do I know what's going to happen tomorrow? I'm not going to make a vision for me in a year because it's just as God wills it, it will be so, which I don't disagree with, but I think God is asking us to create a vision, right? But I tell people, who do you want to be? Who do you want to become? Not what do you want to do? Who do you want to be? That's the trailblazer for a year down the road. Who are
Good.
you in your most optimal self? Who are you where your most authentic self is showing up in the world? What is your superpower? Not do you have one? What is it? And
Hmm.
how is it on full display for the world to feel, experience, taste, touch, and smell? How are you operating in your most, like where all cylinders are clicking, right? Now, there's a second part to this. I want you to feel it. I want you to experience this. This is how we renew our mind because I want you to start experiencing that now. You can actually trick and bypass your brain. Your brain doesn't know the difference. That's psychology, but your brain doesn't know the difference. By the way, that also sounds a lot like when you pray, pray as if it's already come to fruition.
Hmm.
Okay. So that's the vision. Then I always teach people we're going to do massive yearly goals, but also quarterly chunks. And then that kind of satisfies the goal part of the equation. And then you get down, I talk about Sunday night meetings and daily small wins. For me, the daily small win was my savior, not literally, but like because I was always the visionary. Like there was somebody on social media saying, "Okay, it's a new year, New Year's resolution, big goals, and make don't make small goals, make big goals." And so I would. And I remember one time I was like, "I'm gonna make $1 million. Like this is my big goal. I'm gonna make $1 million. I have no idea how to do it. Just wrote it down." And like you, Micah, like I just shoved it in a drawer, didn't look at it again for 6 months. And then the same social influencer is like, hey, we're halfway through the year.
Where are
Are
you
you
at with your
halfway?
goal?
Yeah, where you go? And I'm like, I'd start panicking because I'm like, well, I haven't done anything. I've done nothing different except write that on a piece of paper. So then I'd find the piece of paper, panic. Then I'd go on Google, how do you make $1 million? And inevitably, within an hour, I was depressed, didn't do anything differently, and the rest of my year looked exactly the same. And shocker, the year was basically a play repeat. Nothing happened, no different, just a little bit of expansion, which happens naturally anyway. And so what the daily small win does is it gives me peace that like I'm moving the needle. I don't have to like, I'm an
Mhm.
emotional guy. I love the emotional mountains. You're not going to get those daily. But also too, like I know if I'm moving the needle in four specific areas of my life, I'm the chain of command is in motion. The machine is in motion. And so I can have faith, trust, and have certainty that even though I maybe feel uncomfortable today, like I didn't get as much done as I thought, the needle is moving and the vision will come to fruition. God will direct my steps along the way. So that's how I do it. But there has to be a caveat. You must feel uncomfortable.
Hmm.
I am realizing more and more, I am starting to befriend this feeling of fear and being uncomfortable. I realize now more and more fear is not from the enemy, it is from above. When you feel that feeling of fear and uncomfortable, whether it's a goal or a vision or some sort of like calling that you feel, it is exactly where you're supposed to be. See, we think we kind of succumb to fear. By the way, there's a song out there, not to pick on Christians, but there's a song out there that says fear is a liar. Remember that song?
Mhm.
Like it's not really in a lot of respects it's not a liar. Fear is actually part of your primitive brain. I love psychology, by the way. It's to keep you alive.
Yeah.
It's to protect us. Like so when you walk outside and you see a grizzly bear, you get away from it because the thing's going to eat you. You know what I'm saying? That's logical logistical fear. We wouldn't exist as a species if it wasn't for that, but that cannot replace the vision, the expansion to walk into our destiny. We cannot rely on that, right? We
Mhm.
cannot succumb to that. We cannot let it drive the car. I kind of picture it like this, like when I feel that fear or that feeling of being uncomfortable, I just I recognize it. Hey, thanks for showing up today. This is showing me that I'm exactly where I'm supposed to go. You're in the car with me. I coexist with you. And I just let you show me that actually I'm on a divine road of rapid growth and expansion because you showed up today in my life. Then you will actually start to seek it. Because let me
Mhm.
give you a little example. I'm a little older than you guys. It never goes away. It will never go away. Just like the thorn was never taken from Paul's side. It was for I believe that was for a reason. It was for his good to grow and expand into the monster that he was. Same applies to you. And so as you create the goals, the vision, the daily small wins, you will start to hunger and thirst for that little sense of like the opponent showing up in your life. That's good. That's good. That's good. That's good. So we don't create those things so we can be comfortable. We create the things so we can be uncomfortable because that's the ticket to growth and expansion.
I'm reminded, I think it's Joyce Myers wrote a book. She goes, Do It Afraid. The title of the book is Do It Afraid. And I think it's just calling out fear, and calling out those things because I think a lot of times for pastors, I think what you had said about fear cannot replace the vision.
Wow.
Right? Fear cannot replace the vision that God has given you. There's still a target. We still have to move forward. The needle has to move every single day. How would you encourage like the pastor, the young adult ministry leading today who is living in a fear-stricken mindset that may believe in Romans 12:2, but maybe hasn't experienced the fullness of that radical transformation in their thought because they're looking at their finances, they're looking at the building they have, they're looking at their lack of growth. Maybe their spiritual walk with the Lord is not where it should be. They don't have boundaries. Like all those things could be contributing factors to maybe the fear of striking out, like is keeping them from playing the game fully and trusting God in that. How would you encourage somebody just who might be in that season, maybe just starting out or finds their soul kind of weary because they've stopped dreaming for whatever reason?
Yeah, it's great. Great question. I don't, to be honest with you, in those situations, I don't know. I'm not a pastor who's at a building project, and I have no idea. I will tell you how I've done it. Two things is that you have to realize that that fear, and just bear with me here because this might mess with your theology just a little bit. So just bear with me. That's actually a great sign.
Mm-hmm.
That because even our ego, our flesh, Satan actually is a byproduct of creation. You know what I'm saying? And I know
Hmm.
how the story ends, but like in this world today, all thing God works in all things for good for those who love him. So even the things that we would see as negative, as fearful, if we reframe those, can be possible.
That's good.
So I always,
Reframing.
whenever I feel the fear, I always look at it as a reframe. And so let me give you an example from my perspective, and this might shed some light on it. So, as you guys know, so I wrote my book this last year, launched it November the 19th. Had this, I live online, by the way. Like, I'm just kind of like my business is all virtual. I live online, got my audiences, and have this massive wave of momentum. 2 weeks to the day after I launched my book, got my identity stolen. So I wake up to a Facebook hack. It turns into identity theft by 5 in the afternoon or by 10 in the morning. And by 5 in the afternoon, now they're in my bank accounts, the whole bit. That day ended with me and my wife on the phone for 5 hours. I was physically ill, not to sound gross. I was physically ill when I
Mm-hmm.
realized what I had done. And mind you, I'm 46. I got 4 kids. I quit my job 6 months ago. Like, this is my livelihood. And I'm literally giving thieves the keys to my life.
Hmm.
And anyways, I'll spare you all the details. My identity's fine. I got most of the money back, working on a little chunk of it still to this day. But my biggest my biggest hit was to my two biggest audiences on Facebook and Instagram. And to this day, I still don't have Facebook back. Did not sleep that night. Next morning, wandering around this room that you see on Zoom if you're watching this on Zoom, but like did not sleep, was physically ill all night long. And I talked to my friend Craig, who lives out on the East Coast. And I texted him, I was like, Craig, if you got 30 seconds, call me. And he calls me. God bless this man. First thing he says without hesitation, he said, Jerrid, this is going to be the best thing that ever happens to you. And I was like,
Thanks, buddy.
Interest, interesting. And I said, I'm like, are you kidding me? He goes, there's no way that this showed up in your movie. He loves to call your life your movie. He goes, that this showed up in your movie at this strategic time. He goes, you better buckle up because there's going to be something so big on the other side of this. He goes, we won't laugh about this today, probably not tomorrow. Someday we will laugh about this and you will look back and you will be so thankful that that happened. He went on to say, be flattered by your challenges, be flattered that the divine loves you so much
Mm,
that he would give you these challenges, not to break you, but to create breakthrough.
that's
Okay.
great. Hmm.
And so, but now what I did with that, and I want your listeners to hear this, I sat in it. I sat in it. I chose to believe him. Old Jerrid was freak out, react, fight, get on social media. Who knows how I can get this back? He said, Jerrid, the faster you can give this up, he goes, just have no agenda. Just give. He goes, the faster you give this up, the faster it'll come back. But he said this, and I want your listeners to hear this. He goes, what an opportunity. Dude, I just launched a book 2 weeks ago. I just had my identity stolen, two of my biggest platforms washed away. And he goes, what an opportunity. He goes, think of the time you will have back, the time you can pour into your family, the time that you can now maybe work different angles of your business, right? And he said, don't fight the uncomfortable, sit in it. And I got to tell you, December was uncomfortable. I didn't try. I wasn't sending emails. I just was like, okay, how can I use this as an opportunity? And you know what I did? I got on the phone and I started calling people and companies that I thought I could help. I started listening to what their pain points were. Then I started offering them solutions. I said, here's how I think I can help. Here's a contract. Boom, sign, 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 sign. And all of a sudden, January, which as of the recording of this podcast we're in, is the biggest month of my life,
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
financially, yes, but also impact wise. If you look at
Hmm.
how I've helped people, February will be on track to be number two, maybe number one, depending on what happens. It's not about the finances. It's about sitting in the uncomfortable, reframing fear as an opportunity. Don't react to ego, scarcity, pride, flesh that will want to like react and try to like control the situation. Just sit in it, reframe it as an opportunity, and embrace the uncomfortable and be thankful that God gave you this opportunity to grow and expand. That's the only thing I did different, guys. I'm not taking credit for it. That's the only thing I did different. And I can tell you with 100% certainty that was not an attack of the devil. People are like, oh man, the devil's coming at you. Perhaps Is it from above or below? Honestly, I really don't know. And maybe it doesn't even matter. Maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe it's 80, 20, 20, 80, 100, 0. I don't know. But all I know is that something so beautiful, profound came out of that because of how I reframed it and reacted because of it. And that was that the reason why that happened was because I've renewed my mind.
Hmm.
That was a change in thought that has now released these like exponential quantum expansions of growth. That's the beauty in
I
Romans
love
12
it.
too.
Everybody needs a Craig. Start praying for one, people.
I love that guy. I love
No,
that guy. He's a soul
seriously,
brother.
go there for a second because like Jerrid, I think you've been this for me. I know that. I think we may have at moments been this for each other that like, guys like Eric Schmidt at Google, Jeff Bezos, even Elon Musk, if you read about them, they hire a C-level person to intellectually spar with them, to poke holes in them. Kind of in another way to say it is like to challenge their thought process. Um, because there's Hippo, like the highest paid person in an organization, people won't question what they say. You have to
Mhm.
like almost force feedback. And this was a way for them to create a feedback loop. But whether it's Craig, whether it's you for I, whether it's the listeners for each other, how important is that iron sharpens iron? How important is it for those people to cheer you on and believe in you, maybe when you didn't believe in yourself? What role does that play in our lives and in our story?
Yeah. Well, I mean, always having those people are great. You should have your posse. I call them my posse. Like, I'll befriend anybody, but I've only got like 12 people in my posse. And these are my heck yeah friends that I talk about in my book. By the way, you're one of those people in my posse, by the way, which I love.
Likewise, man.
It was interesting because when I got to my point and like when I was 43, coming out of COVID, capped, right? Like I talk about 15%, like the world's only getting like 15% of my soul is being expressed this world. That was haunting me. It wasn't financial, but I also knew I had more to give in that realm as well. I always said this. I was like, I'm really good at making this much money. I can make this much money in my sleep, but I cannot make a dollar over that, no matter what I do. So, and I'm like, I feel like I've got a lot to offer. Like, I feel like I got a lot of energy. You know what I mean? Like, people seem to like me. So I'm like, I know I can do it. So what is the problem? And so I didn't understand at the time, but like I was so set in my ways on how I thought.
Hmm.
And so I would challenge your listeners. Find people, as you said, Josiah, that don't think the way you do. Befriend them. Um, Read books that maybe kind of sit on the other side of the fence. Political seasons, we don't do this. Like we only listen to people who
Oh,
think
true.
just like us, so they can affirm everything we believe. And I want to be very, very respectful when I say this. Okay, so please don't get offended by this. Don't email Josiah and Micah like this is. But sometimes our small-mindedness
Hmm.
keeps us capped in our little religious boxes. Okay. For example, like, I'm a Dave Ramsey disciple like you. I
Yeah.
mean, we
Yeah.
do whole shows on this. One of the books that really started opening my mind once I was open to it, there's a book out there by Garrett Gunderson called Killing Sacred Cows. At the beginning of me starting to kind of shift my thought into changing the way I think, I read that book. It literally says, I kid you not, just like everything that Dave says, he says the exact opposite. And I listened to that book like 7 times in a row, and I found it fascinating. Now, I don't subscribe to I'm not saying he's right. You see what I'm saying? Like you
Hmm.
can read other people's stuff. That doesn't mean that you're gonna like change your beliefs. You know what I'm saying? Like, but it,
Hmm.
it opened my mind to there's a different way of doing it. And it seems like there is a tie to growth and expansion and open-mindedness. But we as Christians look at that as like, oh, like you're flirting with the other side. Don't taste, don't touch. I've got some friends of mine, like they are ferocious readers. Every time I go to their house, they've got stacks of books. But I will tell you, and again, with all due respect, do not hear me wrong on this one. They're all Christian books. They all come from the same shelf on the bookshelf. And while that can be edifying, you know what's been edifying for me is like actually like befriending other people who are outside of my political or even religious scope. There's some great people out there who have some phenomenal ideas, but they may not align with you spiritually. They probably won't align with you politically. And you know what I found 3 years ago? I would never ever befriend those people. And that doesn't change my faith. My beliefs are still as strong as they always were. By the way,
Mhm.
Craig, he's not a Christian. He's not a Christian.
Wow,
He's
that's
he's
awesome.
he's a soul brother. He's a soul brother. You know what I mean? And he has opened my eyes to so many things outside of just this very narrow way. And I'm not blaming God, I'm not blaming the church. I'm blaming my own mindset. It's my own
Mhm.
thinking that boxed the
Mhm.
divine into this little cozy box. And all of a sudden, people like Craig, people have exposed me to other ideas, and that actually edifies my faith, and I understand my faith and actually believe it more than what I did prior. So I would just challenge you. Don't open up, be open to other ways of thought. That doesn't mean open yourself up to be less ferocious about what you believe. No, but you know what I
Right.
mean? Like, be
Yep.
open to that. Understand what the other side. By the way, if you've got somebody in your life that like doesn't agree with you, like that thinks the opposite politically, you know what? You can probably land on some sort of trauma or hurt. You can
Mm,
start to develop something at the heart level. And I'm and that is 100% true. We may not agree on politics or spirituality, but we can relate to pain. Pain is like this, like it levels the playing field. Jesus did that. They wanted to pin him to a religious conversation. He always brought it back to this heart level that we can all connect upon. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
the political right is like, Jesus, if you're Christian, you vote right. And we put, and these are boxes, people. You are limiting the divine as soon as you start putting things into a box. I'm not even saying I disagree. I'm just saying be open. And so put people in your life that are maybe a little bit outside of the frame of exactly what you believe. I'm not suggesting you follow them and get soft on your beliefs. No, 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 no. But it will actually open your mind to different ideas and might actually expand you and edify your faith.
Hmm.
That's what I've seen.
for sure. And what about, okay, so like, I want to come back to something that happened because I wanted to talk about it. We talked, I don't know if it was the day or the day after, but
Like the
I
week
re
after.
I remember when your social media accounts got hacked and like I asked myself, we just went on a trip and I turned my phone off. And Jared, you know what I missed? On social media, nothing. Did I need to call back some family friends? And there was some work emails and texts, yes.
No,
But the social media part, I didn't miss anything.
no.
And that was an eye-opening experience. How did you, I know Craig helped you go with thought process, but let's say somebody's facing a challenge. I want to help walk through new ways of thinking to move from challenge to opportunities and possibilities and want to come back to something like your Facebook, I believe, and then Instagram, they get hacked, they're gone. The bank accounts too, but let's just focus on those for a second. You this month have done phone calls. You're going to be speaking to people. There's going to be book sales. This is going to be a banner month. How did you pivot and switch to like a productive step? Because the thought process, I just want to get maybe from the ethereal to a tangible, like if you can walk us through like, okay, my accounts are gone. I've got a message. You've got a life-changing
Hmm.
message that the world does need to hear. Now, the mission isn't changed. The method needs to change. How did you
Nope.
break through to like a practical step?
Well, I had no choice.
Yeah, yeah. It's like necessity is a beautiful.
It was
Commodity.
100%. Yeah. And again, so it was again, but I wouldn't have been open to that had Craig not planted that seed. It's a new idea. It's a new form of thing. It's a renewing of the thought. Because I would have spent all of December
Hmm.
fighting instead of just accepting and moving on with no agenda, surrendering it, and seeing really what can I do to connect to another soul. Here's what it showed me. There's nothing wrong with social media, but it revealed the 80-20 rule to full extent. 80-20 rule says like you get 20%, you get 80% of your results from 20% of your actions.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I can't tell you, dude, after launching the book, I probably spent 80% of my time online posting reels and
Wow.
stories.
Wow.
Now, that scratched the itch of production because I live in fear and scarcity, which says like I have to be doing something all the time to make me feel like I'm whole, right? And so I love that part of it. But then once it was gone, I was like, okay, like now what do I do? Right. And I'm like, I'm fully self-employed, so I got to go make money somehow. I mean, that's kind of part of the game. You know, if I don't go kill it and brag at home, it doesn't exist. Right. And so I was like, how can I connect to people on the soul level? There's something so powerful about business because you're dealing with other souls and you're dealing with people's money.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
And it's just so, if you look at that as a financial transaction, you miss the soul connection. So
Yep.
that's where I went into it. I didn't try to sell anybody anything. I just got on the phone because I had no choice. Turns out, God dang it, there's people in my backyard. I didn't have to go that far. You know, like I thought I needed this worldwide stretch on social media. It turns out like most of the people that business came from were probably within a 30-mile radius of here. And so I
Unbelievable.
just called them and I got coffee dates and I was like, here's what do you need? Like, where is the pain point? What are you struggling with? Cool. Well, what if I came in and did this? What if I provided this for you? Cool. How much does that cost? Well, here's a plan. What do you think? And it was like, they signed it. I'm like, I can't believe they paid the invoice. Holy cow. You know what I mean? And so right now I just spend a lot of my time. I spend a large chunk of my weeks on the phone with people, coaching them, encouraging them, getting fed myself, getting filled with
Yeah.
God's light, and then now taking that to the other people. It's this beautiful display. I love this idea of light. When I think of God, I think of the creator filled with light.
Yep.
Physically, like you hear about near-death experiences in this insane light. There's something so powerful about this idea of light. And I think of my soul, my spirit is like a cup that contains the light. And my job is to go and shine that light. And
Mm-hmm.
here's the thing, when my light shines, other people's lights illuminate. But there's another part to this that we forget. What happens to my capacity to hold light when my light shine? What happens to it? Does it go up or down? It goes up.
Mm-hmm.
And so I grow, I get more of the fullness the more I shine, not the more money I make, but not excluded. That to me is a byproduct, but the connection, the impact, the me stepping into my most authentic self starts to come out. And
Mm-hmm.
then you start unlocking these caps, these padlocks that were all over, and they start to come out. And that's really what I find so incredible. So to answer your question, Josiah, I did it out of pure necessity, but I did it because my friend Craig said, "Don't run from it. Sit in the uncomfortable and embrace it."
I love it. I think it's so good. And Jerrid, I know we're coming around in the last 5 minutes of our episode. Are you up for the 5 and 5 challenge?
I did, and you know what? I know you gave this to me in advance, and I don't know if I came up with any good answers. So I apologize if I don't have a good answer off the
I
top of
think
my
you're going to
head.
have some great answers. She wants to start with question or answer number one. You ready?
Let's go.
Besides plugging us in because we're running low on battery here. But what is your dream in a sentence?
Holy cow. Honestly, my dream is to be more of me because the more I am of me, the more I actually reflect God's glory.
That's great.
To just comment a second on that, like, I think so many people are stuck comparing or trying to be somebody else.
Totally.
And
Yeah.
like, I've fallen into that. And you go, wait, I'm robbing the world of
The authentic
Yeah.
me.
me.
Yeah.
It's comparison. And again, I will always revert to business. I'm dealing with entrepreneurs and business owners. You're dealing with young adults and pastors. So I don't know the connection there, but there is a connection. But it's not me against the other guy. It's
Right.
not me against the guy down the road. It's me, and I don't even want to say against because that would indicate that your current self is bad. But it's me, if I want to use the word against, it's me against my current version of myself. My goal in a year
That's
is to
good.
be this, but more of me. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And the
Mm-hmm.
more uncomfortable I am, and the more I see fear as like, as like the golden ticket of opportunity, the more I start to grow and expand into that to become unrecognizable. Where I look back in the year and be like, I love that guy. I love that guy. Dude, my goal is right now, like I look back at a year, I'm like, I love that guy. I'm so proud of him. He went out on a limb. He sat in the uncomfortable and he did it, but I'm not that guy anymore. That's the
Mm-hmm.
journey. That's
Right.
the journey.
Love it.
What's your jam right now? Like hobby, something for fun. What are you into?
Oh gosh. I don't like winter. And so we bought a pontoon for the first time. We live in lakes country in West Central Minnesota, so I am just itching to get out on the lake. I told the kids, I'm like, as soon as it's 75 and we have more than an hour, that boat is going to get a ton of use. So my kids are getting friends, and we live all around lakes, and they have friends that are on lakes, and so I'm getting so pumped for summer, and getting back out on the water and just you know not living in 18 hours of darkness like we do in the upper Midwest.
That's probably true. Okay, here's question number 3, the curveball. If you could ask Josiah and myself any question, what would you want to know today?
How do you get your hair to look like that? If I could do anything to get my hair to look like that, I would do it. Honestly, you're
Oh,
so cool.
oh gosh. Thanks, man.
How
Um,
could
so I have a little bit of a natural wave and curl, and I use a little bit of a straightener. And
no.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Just to
Okay.
like get it to like stand up a little bit
He has
better.
crazy thick hair. It would just be like a wavy
Okay.
soccer afro if he let it go too much.
See, that's my problem. I have real fine hair, and I got a real narrow head like you, but you pull it off. I can't. I just can't. The longer my hair gets, the more I think in my mind I'm gonna look like very Italian, and it just doesn't work.
Oh,
So I
that's
wish I, I
so
wish I had a
funny.
deeper answer to that question, but I'll be honest, that's the first one that came to me. I was like, how do you get cool hair like that? How do you do
So
that?
Probably
By the way,
some
is this audio only? Are your listeners only listening to this?
audio and video. So
Okay, so I'm so proud that now that the,
your
the
hair is
people
like that.
watching this get it.
Perfect.
Yeah.
it's amazing. So what about like a favorite quote or verse or something that speaks to you that maybe it's like when Muhammad Ali was getting knocked out, his coach, his trainer didn't say like, "Hey, do this, do that." It was like, "Go to the well."
Yeah.
What's something deep um, that maybe you've turned to or continue to turn to for that perseverance, inspiration, and encouragement?
Oh man, I love this. So I mentioned this quote in my book. It's by Marianne Williamson, and as far as I can tell, I don't even know if she's even Christian, which doesn't make her any more or less profound. But I love this quote. She says, "Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It's our light, not our darkness, that most frightens ourselves." Did you guys hear that?
That's great. Wow.
So she says it's our deepest fear isn't that we're weak. It's actually that we're powerful beyond measure, right? It's not our darkness that scares us, it's our light. So from a spiritual context, that is horrifying if that is true, because that means that we may get to a point where we're on the other side for a split second and we're like, oh no, I was connected to an infinite creator this whole time and I didn't live like it. To me, that is one of the most sobering quotes because it forces me to face the man in the mirror who is connected to an infinite divine source. So I better be living like it, right? I
Right.
better see this growth, not because I'm inadequate, but because there is so much light and divine power that I'm connected to. I have no excuses in this world. And that gives me purpose to every single day. You know what I'm saying? Because honestly, I kind of thought about that for a while. I'm like, once you get saved, now what? Like, yeah,
Mhm.
sanctification, yeah, evangelism, yeah, okay, cool. No, this is it. Like how to display and get the fullness, the John 10:10 fullness. I'm 46. I didn't think I was just getting started. I honestly feel that way. Like I'm just now, like now we're at chapter one. Let's go because I want to live like I do have that divine infinite power. I love that. I love Marianne Williamson. Look up the quote, Marianne Williamson, but that's probably her most favorite one. And like I said, I don't even know if she's a Christian. I don't know if that's even meant to be a spiritual type of quote, but to me it is.
Amazing. Well, I think that we're going to marinate in that for a little bit after this episode. But question number 5, our last question of the day. If you could leave the listener with one piece of encouragement, what would you want to say to them today?
Oh man, well, that's a big one. Um, I know we've said it before, but what's coming to mind is that there is no limit. You are a divine creature that is destined for eternity. Think of Genesis 1 and 2. You had Adam and Eve in the garden. They had access to the tree of life. Then it was cut off in Genesis 3. But then you read Revelation 21 and 22, and then all of a sudden there's the New Jerusalem, and we get re-access to the tree of life. Like, your divine makeup is eternity to a divine infinite creator. And in the world, I live in the world of personal development. And sometimes personal development and spiritual, these camps, there's friction there, because the Christians say it's all about God, and the personal development people say it's all about me. And there's friction there. There's no friction there. It's the same. Like, one of the most honoring things that you can do for your creator is to become fully alive, who you were created to be. And there is no end. Some people say, like, well, I want to be content. I want to be humble. You can be humble and content and strive for more, and they can coexist, because that's your genetic makeup. You are destined to be eternal. So I would just challenge your listeners: there is no end, there is no limit. There is absolutely no cap as to what you are able to do and accomplish, because of his nature of being infinite and exponential. And I love bringing that. I love bringing that to a secular crowd. If you read my book, by the way, it is not a Christian book. It does not use a lot of Christian terms, because I want non-Christians to read it. I want them to discover, don't tell anybody, I want them to discover their creator. That's the ultimate goal of that book, because the creator's mark is all over every fiber of their being. They may not know it, but if they look inside to try to develop who they are, they'll see him. They'll see him, and there is no end.
I love it.
It's beautiful. The book is Life Undeferred, and your dream life awaits. Jerrid Sebesta is our guest, and we're grateful for you, man.
Dude, let's do it again. I love this. I love you guys. I've known you guys for so long. And so any opportunity to hop on a podcast, let's do it, brother.
Oh, I love it. Well, thank you for spending time with us and our audience today. This is the Young Adults Today podcast. Hey, everybody. This is Micah Kennealy again with the YoungAdults.today. If you are loving the Young Adults Today podcast, you are going to love the FYI podcast. If you're between the ages of 18 to 30, come alongside those people who are longing to get some of those questions answered about adulting, life, faith, finances, and so much more. So tune in. You can give us a direct message. If you are between the ages of 18 to 30, have some amazing questions, we want to point you not only to Christ, but to the Word of God and Scripture that can hopefully help navigate some of those big questions that you are currently up against.
We hope that you enjoyed today's episode, and we just wanted to create an opportunity for you to invest financially into the faith of the next generation. Young Adults Today is not only a podcast, it's not only conferences and camps. We do exist to reach young adults for Christ and to train leaders to do the same, but we're also a community network of young adult ministry leaders, and we're active to really provide events and resources to help you thrive in reaching the next generation for Christ. This ministry and nonprofit exists because of the generosity of viewers and listeners like you, our friends, our families, as Mike and I, and really we're extending that invitation to you. Your gift can scholarship a young adult to a camp, can scholarship a young adult ministry leader to a conference. It can provide really needed resources into the hands of those who need it. And it makes this podcast and all of the resources that we do, makes it possible. And we're so grateful for how these podcasts are growing and reaching and ministering, and also our camps and the conferences for leaders. We would just love to invite you. You can donate today by visiting the link in your podcast episode description, as well as by visiting YoungAdults.today and clicking on Give. That's right. Visit YoungAdults.today and click the donate button. And we're sure grateful. It's really an honor to serve the next generation. And on behalf of young adults who are impacted in their faith, in their life, in adulting, in relationships and finances, in theology, and tackling tough topics and things like navigating life choices and decision making, we just want to say a great big thank you to viewers like you.